I analysed hundreds of hours of MrBeast content to find out how he ended up becoming what he is today.
I just made the decision I was going to be a YouTuber, I was going to die trying.
What I found out about these particular topics will start to change how you view his content forever. Just in case you don't know who MrBeast is, he is the most subscribed YouTuber on this platform. If you decided to add up all his views across all his channels, you'd be looking at a number that is in the range of how many stars there are in our whole galaxy. And oh yeah, he is also on course to become YouTube's first self-made billionaire. His videos are very extravagant, entertaining, and expensive, with a six-figure prize fund usually just being a simple cherry on the top. Underneath this cherry though lies a whole formula that most of his videos follow in order to maximize their success on this platform. Due to this formula's proven effectiveness, the whole structure of how people consume and create content on YouTube has changed entirely. However, MrBeast has more recently been in the spotlight for numerous negative reasons. Some of these reasons are due to the actions of his co-workers, but others span his unethical product releases and even how he has allegedly faked his own high-budget videos. Regardless of this, his videos still remain extremely dominant on the platform, and I believe the reason why is because of how MrBeast and his team use psychology in their content creation process. I believe that if you take a psychological perspective on the matter, you can start to uncover how they've been able to tap in and almost commandeer human psychology for their own benefit.
It's okay. I'm so sorry.
Over the course of 3 in-depth videos, I'll be diving deep into the psychology behind MrBeast and his videos to find out what makes him so successful on this platform. I will cover 3 main areas, all of which will receive their own video. In each video, I will go over specific psychological mechanisms that are used in order to generate the astronomical amount of views, likes, and subscribers that the MrBeast channel gets. But also, I will raise awareness that these pieces of content may actually be more harmful than you may think. YouTube is designed in a way that allows viewers to see 4 main things about a video before they decide to click on it. Well, actually 5, but we'll talk about that in a second. The 4 main things are the thumbnail, title, length of video, and the amount of views that the video has. Arguably, the most noticeable component is the thumbnail. On the surface, a thumbnail is just a visual piece of information that entices people to click on a particular video. In fact, a study that analysed over 16,000 YouTube thumbnails concluded that either strong, positive, or negative sentiments in thumbnails lead to more views. A clear way that MrBeast achieves this is through his over-exaggerated, almost uncanny form of thumbnails. They tend to have an artificially upscaled MrBeast standing either in the middle or the side of the frame, both exposing a key concept of what the video is about. Because it's not just a mansion, it's a gold-plated mansion with a red carpet, golden slide, palm trees, and its own private beach. And oh yeah, not forgetting MrBeast himself. Funnily enough, a study that compared well over 3,000 marketing videos found that thumbnails with a celebrity picture and a combination of high colorfulness and high brightness may be more effective in persuading viewers to click and watch a video. That last bit makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at 2 key concepts in evolutionary psychology: the use of trichromatic vision and color contrast sensitivity. We humans have trichromatic vision, which means we can see a ton of different colors. This trait is believed to have been involved in early humans distinguishing between different types of food sources. So, the ability to see bright colors like reds, yellows, and greens would have been advantageous for identifying ripe and nutritiously rich food sources. This, paired with our eyes being particularly sensitive to contrast between colors, meant that back in the day, it was much easier to spot brightly colored fruits against the uneventful greens of the jungle. Now, if you extrapolate this knowledge and put it onto your YouTube view page, the 300,000-year-old version of Homo sapien that you are can see that a MrBeast thumbnail oddly matches the visual requirements of a juicy, ripe, hidden fruit that your dear ancestor so desperately needed. However, nowadays, how we see color has evolved from knowing what foods to eat into representing whole emotions, events, and ideas, which all change depending on where you live and the culture you've been brought up in. For example, white symbolizes purity in Western cultures, but mourning in many Asian societies. Red is lucky in China, but associated with danger in Germany and other Western countries. Therefore, as an American company, MrBeast will probably use Western representations of colors to represent Western ideas. This may create potential MrBeast viewers to hold different representations of his thumbnails even before they click on the video. But what about the actual objects in the thumbnails? Well, a different study analysed cultural differences in the things found in YouTube thumbnails. What the researchers established was that in countries like Japan and India, sports-related items like skateboards are more popular in thumbnails, whereas more Western countries prefer high-calorie foods in their thumbnails. The study then went a step deeper and found that even in the same genre of video, thumbnail content varies significantly across countries. For instance, the autos and vehicles genre predominantly features cars in the US, but trains in India. So perhaps when MrBeast next changes his thumbnail for the 100th time, he may need to consider changing his thumbnail to a topic that targets the geographical group that he wants more engagement from. Alrighty, I know that's quite a bit about thumbnails, but there is a reason why they're a hallmark of MrBeast content. They are one of the first things we see before we decide to watch a video. So MrBeast and his team align their thumbnails with many aspects of human psychology in order to maximize the chances of you clicking on their video. But for now, let's move on and see why if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then why do we only need on average 6.76 words to describe it? Successful YouTube titles need to gather interest and inform both at the same time. Unsurprisingly, MrBeast does this very well. How well exactly, you may ask? Well, to find that out, let's go back to our previously mentioned study. This study also found that when it comes to YouTube titles, positive sentiments generate more views than negative sentiments. So, this explains why MrBeast has titles such as "Last to Leave the Circle wins $500,000" instead of "If you leave the circle, you lose $500,000." A potential reason for why this works can be explained through a thing in behavioral economics called framing. Framing is basically the way you present information to other people, and by doing so, potentially influencing their decisions.
I changed my mind!
For example, what option sounds better to you? Option A, you have a 10% chance of dying, or option B, you have a 90% chance of survival.
Nice.
Both options have the same statistical outcome, but one is framed in a more positive light, so my guess would be that you chose option B. In the case of MrBeast, his titles always seem to use a framing method that incorporates some kind of gain. By doing this, you are either consciously or subconsciously influenced into thinking that by clicking on his video, you will somehow benefit. Not convinced? Well, here's another way framing is used. Have a look at these titles and their corresponding thumbnails. They are your classic small dollar versus extremely high dollar thing, item, or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, it's just a form of framing to get you to click on that video. Specifically, it's called anchoring, or the anchoring effect. In this case, the cognitive bias of anchoring works by creating a massive juxtaposition between the two values. This immediately draws our attention to the large anchor of millions of dollars and sets an expectation that we can find something extraordinary within the video. I mean, don't get me wrong, seeing what a $250,000 vacation looks like also piques my interest, but pair that with a cheeky cognitive bias and my click is almost inevitable. The most impressive thing about all of this is that MrBeast is able to do all of this in less than 7 words. I mean, 6.76 words to be exact, if you took an average of his 100 most viewed videos. That means MrBeast and his team only need around 6 to 7 words to create a gain frame, an anchoring effect, create positive sentiments, and also inform and interest the viewer for why they should click, watch, and stay till the end of the video. The length of a video makes us ask ourselves, do I actually have 35 minutes spare, or should I watch something shorter?
Ideally, the title represents content that you would want to watch for 20 minutes. So if it's a 20-minute video and the title is "I stepped on a bug," it's not gonna, because it's all of it combined. The click-through rate is going to be much lower.
Whereas the views do something similar, but instead we ask ourselves, is this actually worth me watching? Now, I know this is flawed, but seeing a video with millions of views and thinking this must be a video worth watching because, well, millions of other people have watched it, works on a principle called the wisdom of the crowd. This psychological phenomenon underlies the fact that people in a group are often more accurate than a single individual in making their decision.
I don't want people making fun of my nose.
Your nose?
It's too small.
So through the help of others and the YouTube algorithm, the millions of views on his videos act as a cognitive label that say that this is in fact a reliable source of entertainment that is approved by the masses. Still, getting to that point doesn't only take your videos to be liked by the algorithm and the viewers it recommends it to. You also have to be a person that internalizes this goal into everyday life, a thing that MrBeast does to an absolute T. During his childhood, Jimmy Donaldson, aka MrBeast, seemed to be a person who didn't quite fit into the social norms of his time.
Did you ever see Team America World Police?
Nope.
Jesus Christ!
You know, and you're not, but basically, this is partly why I didn't have many friends growing up. I'm serious. Like,
You just YouTubed out.
yeah, no, that's the problem. Like, that legit what you're experiencing, that's how I felt every day about every little thing throughout my teenage life. And that's why, like, I felt like I was a fucking freak because I was like, I just like YouTube.
Listen, man, I get it.
As he puts it, his hyper-obsession of YouTube appeared to provide him an outlet from the difficulties he found in school.
But I hated school with a passion.
Did you like engage in your typical high school life, I guess, like prom and I don't know, other stuff like that? None of that stuff.
I was so obsessed. I'm telling you, it is unhealthy how there's not a single person on the planet that's been more obsessed that same time span as me because it's physically impossible.
Yeah.
Almost every hour of the day. That's what I was doing. In math class, in English class, in any class, any time of the day, I was thinking about YouTube. Nonstop the last 10 years.
And this outlet continued all the way into his further education.
I always wanted to make enough money to do YouTube full time by the time I got out of high school, and I wasn't. So then my mom made me go to a community college, and it was miserable. It was literally the worst time of my life. I hated it with the passion. So then I just stopped going to community college and I would go to my friend's house and just work on videos.
This decade-long obsession for all things YouTube allowed Jimmy to be in a unique position where he could analyze even the most minute details about the platform.
And we basically talked every day for 1,000 days in a row and did nothing but just like hyper study, like what makes a good video.
Everything from the thumbnails,
Take 1,000 thumbnails and see if like there's a correlation to the brightness of the thumbnail to how many views it got.
to the titles,
Just double the money. I promise the video will go viral and I'll give it to homeless friends. I was like, $10,000 just looks better in a title. It'll get more views. I promise your app will do better.
and even the lengths of the videos themselves.
Even nuances of the length of the video based against the title will affect whether people want to click it, because sometimes they just don't add up.
Have all contributed to his huge success on the platform. If you then decide to add in an absolutely insane work ethic
I try to just work as much as I can because I don't know, I just enjoy it, you know?
that simply just laughs at the face of the work-life balance,
My goal is to make the best videos possible. I'm gonna spend 100 times more. I'm gonna be 100 times more creative. I'm gonna work 100 times harder. I'm gonna hire the best.
You serious?
How's your mental health these days?
Oh. I mean, I just work so much. I don't have time to think about it.
gonna
No
happen.
one's ever gonna do what I do better than me. Like, it's
Yeah.
just not. It's not even humanly possible. Like, I reinvest every penny I make.
Yeah.
I work every hour I'm awake. I devote every atom in my brain to solving this. I hire the
Yeah.
best people on the planet. I've been doing this for 14 years, and I think in decades, not years. So I'm going to be doing this for another 20, 30 years, not 2 or 3. So no, the next me isn't going to be me because no one's going to do what I do better than me. It's not possible. If I thought someone was doing better than me, I'd just start sleeping less so I could work even more. Like, I'd figure it out. I don't give a fuck.
then multiply it by an extremely rigid mindset that targets only one goal.
But I just want to be the biggest YouTuber I can possibly be and make the best videos possible. There's no world where I wasn't a YouTuber in my future.
Yeah.
Like, that was it. People thought it was crazy. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to me either. I was just like, I'm going to be a YouTuber.
I think Jimmy wants to be the best YouTuber. I think he is laser focused on one goal. And I think whatever he has to do to achieve that goal, he'll do.
You start to understand the importance of personal factors being involved in getting his videos to be seen by billions of people each year. Interestingly, we can also use psychological research to infer what kind of personality Jimmy may have. As Jimmy is a CEO of a very successful company, and the personalities of CEOs happen to be reasonably well researched, we can deduce some personality traits that Jimmy may have. So, using the big 5 personality traits, let's see what kind of personality profile successful CEOs tend to have. They usually score high in openness, conscientiousness, and extroversion, but have differing levels of agreeableness. As for neuroticism, now more commonly referred to as emotional instability, they tend to score quite low on these measures. Of course, there are interesting nuances about these factors, and a direct comparison to Jimmy is not possible, so of course, take this with a grain of salt. Nevertheless, based on the stuff that's out there, Jimmy would probably have a very high score on conscientiousness. Why, you may ask? Well, that's because people who score highly on this measure are described to be organized, reliable, and perhaps most importantly, ambitious.
Making the best videos possible. I just want to make the best videos possible. Make the best videos possible. Make the best videos possible. That's
Okay,
the only
there
question
you
you
go.
should ask me. My goal is to make the best videos possible, and I want to figure out how I make the best videos possible.
This deep-rooted ambition to make the best video possible appears to be an integral part to how MrBeast sees the world of YouTube. This is slightly ironic because he never quite defines what the best content would look like. I mean, content in general is subjective, as one person may think that this MrBeast video is the best thing ever made, but another may think it was just a complete waste of time. So, one way of defining the best content is by looking at the amount of views it has. As flawed as this may be, as a good video is not necessarily one that has a lot of views, it does make it objective, whilst also implying that one of these 5 factors was able to grab your attention and make you contribute to the view count. As for our final factor, well, it reveals itself when you just want a final confirmation that you are making the right choice of choosing that particular video. This element bridges the gap between the creator grabbing your attention and you digesting their piece of content, the preview screen. The preview screen allows you to see a creator's video without the commitment of fully clicking on their video. That is why successful creators put a huge emphasis on making catchy introductions that have the ability to persuade people into both clicking on their videos and getting you to watch to the very
You
end.
need to
And
keep
then in the first 30 seconds, you
Yeah,
got to explain
you
why
gotta
it's
keep it
important.
going.
And it's like, you basically,
Yeah.
it's like, you're a salesman, you're a salesman, you're a salesman. If you
Yeah.
do it right around the 1 minute mark, now you're not a salesman.
Right.
You got them convinced. They bought with their eyeballs. Now it's just like, here's what you came for.
Yeah,
Enjoy
it's
it.
so interesting.
Yeah.
Man.
So let's see what sales tactics MrBeast uses in one of his most popular videos titled $1 versus $1 billion yacht.
This is a $1 billion super yacht, and it's big enough to hold an entire city on the water. How do humans build this stuff? And I'm gonna show you the difference between this and a $300 million mega yacht, a $50 million giga yacht, all the way down to this $1 yacht. Why did you sell me this boat for $1?
The storage just kept racking up.
Yeah.
$18,000.
It's cost you 18 grand a year to store this?
Correct.
Interesting. There you go.
Thank you.
Literally all of this happens in just around the first 30 seconds, making it almost impossible for our minds not to be captivated by his video. So clearly, making the best video possible, based on high views, has something to do with the ability to hook the viewer's attention and keep it there throughout. Doing so tells the YouTube algorithm that this video is worth watching and thus increases its circulation within the system. That viewpoint tickled my brain, to the point where I wanted to investigate myself exactly what factor contributes the most in getting a high viewership in the context of maintaining attention throughout a video. Of course, the context of the video and stuff like storytelling are hard to objectify, which make it difficult to research. But there's one feature that is present in all his current videos and also happens to be a perfect factor to consider researching. If we rewatch the first 30 seconds, but keep an eye out for every time there's a cut or change in scene, we begin to see that this style of editing is very intentional. The sheer amount of cuts and transitions continually bombards us with sources of stimulation. That way, our cravings to click on the video and watch the whole thing become almost irresistible, as a MrBeast video acts as a constantly replenishing supply of dopamine and serotonin. For this reason, I believe the excessive amounts of cuts within the first minute of the video is done to gather the attention of the viewer, and the continuation of this high-paced editing style is used to upkeep our attention throughout the entirety of the video. This then strongly contributes to its high viewership, as the algorithm is more likely to promote it on the platform. So, with that said, let's see why I haven't touched any grass for the past few months. Essentially, what I wanted to analyze was the correlation between the amount of cuts a video has and the amount of views it obtained. That way, I could see if more cuts might mean more views. To do this, I needed a sample size that would be enough to satisfy Frankel and Wallen. In their works about correlative research methodology, they suggest a minimum sample size of 30. But when it comes to correlations, more is better. So I decided upon a sample size of 50. So I recorded 50 of the most viewed MrBeast videos at this specific time period and used a handy Premiere Pro feature that auto-detects every time there's a change in scene. Now, this tool isn't perfect at detecting cuts and also doesn't detect any additional graphics showed on the screen, which is unfortunately a drawback of the study. However, doing this research by myself, by hand, for every single video was just not an option.
No, I don't have time for that shit right now.
So I let it do its thing and then exported it as an EDL file because I had some coding to do. Now, coding is only fun when you have unlimited time on this earth, and unfortunately for me, I didn't quite get the DLC for that to be the case. So instead I asked ChatGPT to whip me up a code that would extract all the timings and neatly show me when the cuts happen. When I finished gathering these data points, I then needed to standardize each video based on how long they are. This is because longer videos would naturally have more cuts. So I divided the amount of cuts by the total length of the video to get a cuts per minute score. I then needed to standardize the amount of time that the videos have been published for, because once again, older videos have had longer to generate their views, and that's not something that I want affecting my potential correlation. Therefore, I calculated the amount of days since the video's release and then created a weighted view score using these formulas. All I needed to do now was repeat all these steps for the remaining 49 videos, then ask ChatGPT to write some more code so we can display our beautiful data. And voila, we have our results. So, after all that effort, I end up getting a measly, yet still positive correlation of 0.22, meaning that the amount of cuts is only very weakly correlated with the amount of views. Wow, that was definitely worth the vast amount of time I put into that little endeavor. But anyways, I still think it's cool to include research with small or no effect sizes. Psychology loves to discriminate against this kind of research. But that, my friends, is a matter for a completely different video. For now though, I believe it would be important to cover a particular reason for why my study wasn't as effective as I thought it would be. But to do that, we need to delve a bit deeper into what attention actually is. There's only one slight problem. No one really knows what attention is.
What the hell is that?
What do you think it is?
Oh, wow. Well, if it's what I think it is, I think it's a big fucking mistake.
In a paper titled "No One Knows What Attention Is," the authors argue that because attention can mean many different things, it's impossible and unhelpful to define it with just one concrete, measurable definition. Furthermore, we usually use the concept of attention to explain itself. Therefore, we run into a circular argument that can't be properly defined. For example, I know your attention has been drawn to a MrBeast thumbnail, title or video because you're currently attending to it. This creates a logical loop, making attention difficult to define in a straightforward way. Nevertheless, even without a single universal definition, researchers have managed to break down attention into smaller components in order to identify specific brain areas involved in what seems to be a form of attention. Areas like the posterior parietal cortex and my personal favorite, the prefrontal cortex, all play key roles in attention. So although attention is a highly researched concept, the very essence of attention is not yet fully captured for it to be a universally accepted idea. This again makes studying attention an absolute pain in the ass, as you just don't know what you're measuring. Thankfully, if you wanted to measure your attention towards the channel, you can do so by subscribing, leave a like, and comment a brain emoji to show you got this far into the video. Anyways, regardless of these issues, YouTube bypasses this problem by creating an economy that is based around attention and retention. They achieve this by dividing their platform into sections that align with both concepts and assign specific metrics to each, making them measurable and objective. The key players in this economy are the viewers, creators, advertisers, and YouTube itself. I'll make sure to go into way more detail about the economic side of things in the next part, but essentially the platform is all set up to increase the likelihood of your attention being swayed by the content it provides. This is then exponentially multiplied by an algorithm that can detect what kind of content you and other people are interested in. They then simplify these outputs through things called impressions and then calculate their success through the click-through rate, both of which creators can see for their own videos. So that's all to do with grabbing your attention. Whereas when our attention is now converted onto a video, it is then more up to the creator themselves to decide how to retain your attention throughout the duration of their video. Aiding the creator's decision is a very important metric, average view duration.
What's the most important statistics for like a video to succeed?
It's the click-through rate, whether or not they clicked it, the AVD, average view duration. So because YouTube could see people were watching it for so long,
right,
that's a great indicator that they loved it.
So what I'm getting at is that I was focusing on the wrong metric. Instead of looking at the views, a variable that contains many other extraneous variables, I should have been looking at the average view duration instead. That way, I could more directly investigate how a MrBeast editing style affects the viewer's ability to retain their attention on a video, which then contributes to the vast amount of views they may gain in the future. Problem is that this metric is only visible to the creators themselves. This unfortunately makes my desire to conduct better independent psychological research hit a nice plump brick wall. So, MrBeast and team, if you're watching, please do me a solid and provide me with all your data so I can overanalyze your videos again. That would be much appreciated. Regardless, my research, like all psychological research, is limited for a number of reasons, but it does highlight one thing. The videos that MrBeast creates are designed in a way to continuously capture and recapture your attention for it to be retained there for as long as possible. I mean, across his 50 most watched videos, the average cuts per minute was 32.7 cuts. Put differently, every 2 seconds, you are presented a new stimulus, and this continues for well over 10 minutes non-stop. So if you start to view MrBeast content like this, it can actually become quite difficult to watch, at least in my experience, as I'm now hyper aware of it. For me, watching a MrBeast video is like the classic marshmallow experiment, where researchers wanted to test the delayed gratification of children. Pop a child into a room with nothing but a marshmallow, tell them to wait 15 minutes, and if they don't eat the marshmallow, they can have another one. Instead, with a MrBeast video, it's like getting that marshmallow every 2 seconds just for staying in the room. So, what happens to that final marshmallow at the end? Well, it simply becomes worthless. But let's not kid ourselves here. The amount of cuts a MrBeast video has is probably not the reason you are hooked for extended periods of time. The reality is that the content MrBeast makes is truly interesting and attention grabbing. Through his insane work ethic, his hyper obsession about YouTube, and his ability to influence human psychology, he has been able to create content that satisfies billions of people all around the world. For that to be possible though, he had to exploit 2 aspects of society that every human holds close to their heart.
That I've noticed. Then I guess when I zoom out, like you've always done kind of human experiments, right? Like the one
experiments.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean? Like social experiments, kind of
whatever,
like 1 versus 100.
Cool stuff.
By doing so, MrBeast was able to create entertainment that plays so effectively on our psychology that leaving the video no longer feels like an option.
Do you think attention is the most valuable currency in the world?
Well, of course. I mean, if you could post something and everyone in the world would watch it, you'd be the most powerful man on earth. So of course.